Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Audit Committee, Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. I'd also like to welcome guests and visitors that we've got. So first we've got two members of the Cabinet. Present, Councillors Robert Eggleston and Simon Hicks. And also we have guests who are representing EY, Forvis Mavar, and also our colleague from Ada Worthing, who's going to present item 10, which we're probably going to bring forward. First item on the agenda is to ratify the appointment of the Chairman and Vice Chairman, which was discussed at the annual council meeting on the 14th of May. So can I just ask everybody verbally if they agree to that appointment? Thank you. Apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Cavallo and also from Stephen Brown, who I think he's taking over from Louise Duffield in respect of support for this committee. Obviously, we have the Deputy Chief Executive with us this evening in place of Stephen. So are there any other apologies? I don't think there are. No. Okay. Any declarations of interest? No, none there. Okay. Can we agree the minutes from the last meeting, please? Agreed. Okay, I will sign those in a minute. Now, there are no items of urgent business to take at this meeting. I haven't been told of any. So I'm going to move to take item 10 early because we were requested by our colleague Joseph Saville if we could do that. I believe you've got to travel some distance this evening, so I'm going to invite you to talk on that topic in a moment. First, I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to talk us through the Treasury Management activity.
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out the Treasury Management activity for the financial year 24-25, confirming that it's all been in line with our strategy. The detail of the report will be summarised by Joseph, who is here from our shared service provider, Ada and Worthing, who've provided this service to the Council now for a number of years and to other authorities as well. The report also notes that this service is going to be ending under its current arrangements on the 17th of October and therefore looks for agreement regarding the delegation to myself under the delegations given to me as the 151 officer to make arrangements for the ongoing provision of this service going forward. And with this, I'll hand over to Joseph.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Chair, for bringing my item forward. As you can see, I'm ready for my holidays. So there's two reports in one here, really. We're required to report 4 times a year, but because of the committee calendar, it works out. Sometimes we bring these together. So we've got the Q3 report for last year and the outturn report for the whole of 24-25. And I would say in some ways the Q3 report is somewhat superseded by the outturn report. So I'm not really going to dwell very much on the Q3 report. But what I would say is we've continued in the same vein, really, and that is pursuing security, liquidity, and yield. And I think last time I spoke on the report, we talked about the fact that we've been using other local authorities for investments. Or up until recently, there's been a very strong market for local authority trading, and we've, again, in line with some of the other recommendations from these reports, we've taken due care with looking at those other local authorities which we lend to. So, you know, well, government intervention is the key thing, and that's not just Section 114 issues, it's other things like capitalisation directives. So we do look into those other authorities. And then the rest has been a mixture of counterparties on our approved list, which have been banks and building societies. I would say, I mean, we're looking back here, but things have calmed down a little in the local authority market, and we're starting to look at banks and building societies a little more, and doing our best to, what's worked well for mid-Sussex, because it's quite easy to predict the cash flows for mid-Sussex, so we've tried to go for long deals and place future deals, which has been beneficial, and we've been able to exceed our predictions on yield. And that partly also is due to the fact, again, same as last year, is that all the predictions were for rates to drop more rapidly, but again, they've not. So mid-Sussex is turning out to be a little bit of a winner in that situation. You know, again, we've discussed the fact that you don't have any borrowing, which is great, and it makes my reports a lot easier to put together. I think that's all I've got to say, really. So, any questions, please?
Yeah, are there any questions from members? Okay, so I've got a question for you. In terms of you know, what we're doing here, as you say, kind of we've benefited from interest rates having stayed slightly higher because of international uncertainty and risk in the international markets. But if there's volatility, what mitigations have we got if interest rates go against the council? Are you able to exit any of these deals early, or are they fixed term in every case?
Well, I'll give you an example. Only the other day, the money market fund rates that we're getting at the moment are good. They're around about 4.25. But the feeling is the markets are predicting, further cuts in rates. We've got another MPC on the 7th of August, but I've been able to fix a future deal, which is going out in August to South Ayrshire Council. So I've fixed that at 4.25, going out in August for a year. So the likelihood that you'll be getting, or anybody be getting rates of 4.25 in a year's time is quite unlikely. So I'm very happy with that deal, and it's not affected by any volatility in the markets, but once it's fixed, it's fixed.
Most of our deposits were 12 months or less, aren't they?
That's correct, yeah. We have, I mean, it would be, I'm not saying we should do this necessarily, but I mean, there are local authority deals out there which I could fix for 3 or 4 years at very good rates, but I think it's prudent that we stick with the TMS specifies 1 year with other local authorities because, 2 or 3 years is a long time in the life of the local authority.
Rachel, do you want to?
Thank you. Yes, it's worth noting as well that we also stagger the maturity dates, which helps manage those risks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions anybody wants to ask? Okay, I'm going to move to a vote. And on the resolution, you'll note that we're recognising that Rachel's going to be carrying out a review, as she indicated in her introductory remarks. So item 3 covers future arrangements that Section 151 officer has a duty to review and report back to the council about. So can I ask the committee please to approve the recommendations? Okay. Yeah. So we've got 6 votes in favour and none against. So that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for your time.
Tour de France now.
Okay, so we'll move back to item 6. So over to you then, Rachel, to introduce that item.
Thank you, Chair. So this next report presents the work carried out by internal audit to provide their overall opinion for 24-25. I'm really pleased that the council's received an overall moderate opinion, which is the second highest opinion it can get. So it's very positive for us. While overall the recommendations have increased this year, they're largely low priority recommendations, which actually represent opportunities for us to implement good or better practice. So with that, I will hand over to Ben to go through the detail.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chairman. So the report summarises our work which was undertaken over the 2024-25 financial year as part of the internal audit plan which was agreed in March 2024 with a budget of 166 days. As you can see within section 3 of the report, there were minimal changes to the plan over the year, with these mainly being the movement of the HR sickness absence and annual leave management audit to an advisory review, and the deferral of the contract management audit to 25-26 year. Overall, as Rachel said, we have provided a moderate opinion for the year due to the council receiving 4 audits with a moderate assurance rating and 3 with limited rating. For the limited assurance reports, these related to data breaches, procurement cards and cash receipting. Data breaches and procurement cards have been discussed in prior committees, so I won't delve into these in too much detail. But for the cash receipting, it should be noted that while this did receive a limited assurance, items highlighted are relatively immaterial or low risk to council due to the level of fiscal cash that is received annually. We have provided high-level summaries and recommendations of the recently finalised reports in the progress report, which I believe is the next agenda item. On the benchmarking section within the report, you will note that while there were more limited assurance reports compared to last year, this is a result of management identifying audit areas which have not been reviewed over some time or were kind of where higher risk lies, somewhat reflecting the approach to achieving value for money within the internal audit provision. Finally, a further draft report on HMO licensing is currently with management to be agreed. However, this is due to have no impact on the overall opinion for the year. So, over to any questions.
Okay, any questions from members? Councillor Cherry, I think. No. Nearly.
That's it. Yes, I've received a question actually from a fellow colleague councillor regarding, well, it's actually relating to the NFI data matching audit, which I think was carried out with the Isle of Anglesey County Council, right? Yeah, can the auditors comment on any interim progress and give a date for when will the committee receive a report on the outcome of this work. Because we know that other councils produce a report outlining detail around where data matches have led to identification of possible fraud and error. Is that?
Yeah, so I'll go to Rachel Jarvis first, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Yes, the NFI audit happens annually, so it is something that we do, and we do data matching, and were there any issues, they would be raised and flagged. So we're confident in terms of that there haven't been any fraudulent activities.
Isn't it an ongoing process, the data matching now?
It happens annually, so it's I suppose one stops and the next one starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I meant in the plan, it's referred to as an ongoing audit item as opposed to a fixed point in time.
Yeah, I think that's because it's annual.
Okay.
Sorry, just
Yeah.
to pick up on that. So it's carried out annually. Do you look at different county councils for this matching process? Each year, do you look at a different county council, or how does, I don't quite understand how the matching works.
So I'd have to go into a bit more detail. It's not something that I myself looked over this year, but I believe it is we kind of receive reports which kind of outlines potential cases of fraud in place, to which we then have a look over to see what this might be. And it could be instances where a potential data cell might not match between two reports. In that case, it might be the case of, you know, one might have a space at the end of it, one might not have, one might have capitalisation aspects like that. It's looking for discrepancies there as well. I think it's split between work that we do and what the council does as well. So it's not so much a comparison between different councils as well, it's more kind of understanding different reports and different data entry processes across.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions anybody has? Okay, so in terms of the audit approach, so this is talking about last year's audit, and then we're going to move on to the, so we'll take a vote on that, and then we'll talk about the current audit process. Okay, so if we can vote on support for the recommendation. Okay, so that's carried unanimously, 6 votes in favour. Okay, so if we can move on to item 7, Rachel, do you want to introduce that item?
Thank you, yes. This next report just presents the work against the approved programme for this financial year, so 25-26. So I'll hand straight over to Ben.
Yes, thank you again. So in relation to the 25-26 audit plan, we have commenced the first audit of the year during the Q1 period, which is in relation to housing and homelessness. The fieldwork element of the audit has been completed, with us now progressing through our quality assurance process and due to be issued in draft shortly. For Q2 of the year, we have commenced planning for accounting for preparedness advisory review, with the draft terms of reference due to be issued shortly as well. In addition, we have commenced planning for another 2 audits, which are due to commence at the start of Q3, this being the temporary event licensing and supplier setup P2P. And as we have in the past, the thought leadership piece has been included at the end of the progress report, this time relating to our public sector in focus report. And our key takeaways from this report was that the top 3 priorities and risks that 390 respondents believe are key to shape the future for the sector. So we're open to any questions.
Okay, so this is early in the council year, so we don't really have any progress information on what you've got to, other than...
Yes, I think similar to last year as well. Q1 tends to be kind of a planning part of the year. There tends to be 1 or 2 audits this year, one audit going through. You tend to see a few more coming in the Q2 and Q3 updates.
Okay, I think I'll be interested in when we get a report on counter fraud, given that it covers things like cyber attacks and vulnerability of the system, as well as trying to protect the council from any types of fraud attack. So hopefully we'll get a clean bit of health, but it is obviously a matter of lots of concern to lots of people, especially when their personal data stored by councils and other organisations. Any other questions from anyone?
Yes, I have a further question from a councillor colleague. It's regarding the relating to the 20% completion rate for the e-learning training modules on data protection and cyber security. You state that the target date to resolve this is June 26, which is almost a year away and seems a bit of a long time away. So what is the target completion rate, and are all staff starters completing this as part of their induction, given the importance of ensuring new staff are on board with these procedures? Could you elaborate a bit on that?
So the first part is in relation to the proposed due dates. These are typically set by the management responses, so by the council themselves. So the key contacts in place will look over the risks that we have identified, try to understand kind of what the potential resource capacity, also kind of change of culture capacity as well, a number of different factors which then lead into the the proposed due date. If it seems somewhat reasonable, then we can accept it. We do query if it is quite far in the future. I think for this one, January 26 seemed quite reasonable there. Apologies, I did miss the second part. Not January, sorry. June, apologies. Yes, I think June seems quite fine, because I think this was a fairly late in the plan audit as well. So I think that should be quite fine there. I wasn't involved too much in the conversations with our IT specialists in that side, the key contact, so we're there more at the end of the audit as opposed to the discussions during the audit fieldwork.
Yes, because it's pretty important that particularly new starters, get training in this area fairly quickly, as you think of the potential risks that, a new untrained starter might present. Could I just ask, is further training planned for councillors as well in this area, because it's very much an ongoing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So ask Rachel Jarvis to answer that, because we're asking about not just what's being audited, but I think you're asking about the process, which is, so let's, Rachel, would you like to answer?
Thank you. So yeah, just to answer the first part, or rather to add to what Ben has said, often it's about being able to put things in place and do the work around preparing and preparation that needs to be done in order to put in place those things that are coming out of the recommendations. But yes, in terms of training, the council has ongoing training plans and reviews its training regularly to make sure that the appropriate training's in place, and also appropriate investment. The council invests a lot in its cyber security.
We've changed the access controls, haven't we, recently? I think there've been a number of things to try and tighten up on councillors' access to files and systems because of potential risk. And I'm assuming that's an ongoing review process.
It's an ongoing process, and it's something that we invest in on an ongoing basis because we understand the need.
Yeah, so I think there's a slight difference between the process that council's managing and then what we're expecting our internal auditor to do, which is to make sure we're actually managing the process as we think we are, but also to come with any recommendations for any improvements that might be relevant.
Thank you for answering that.
Any other questions? Okay, can we move to a vote then to approve the update? So if we can vote on that. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. And I think, Ben, if you wish to leave at this point, then you're welcome. Thank you for your presence. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to external audit now and talk about the audit plan there. I'm going to invite Rachel to introduce that topic.
Thank you. Yes, this next report sets out the audit plan for the financial statements 24-25 that EY are going to, and Hassan's team are going to take. It covers the activity that they're going to use to gain assurances over our statements. It also, I should note that backstop arrangements, which we have discussed at this committee a number of times, still apply as the audit sector resets itself. So I'll hand over to Sam now to provide the detail.
Thank you, Rachel. Members of the committee, name's Hassan Rohiman, partner at EY, responsible for the external audit. I'll just briefly take you through the audit planning report. So within the executive summary on your page 45, it sets out the context of the audit. As Rachel's outlined, we are in a context of a reset of the local government audit market for our 22-23 audit. For the 23-24 audit, we did issue a disclaimed opinion. That was issued in February of this year, and we're now setting out our strategy for 24-25 audit within this audit plan. Highlight there on your page 46 or page 6 of the report the position in terms of rebuilding assurance. The NAO have recently issued further guidance, and we're considering that guidance in terms of what it means for the procedures we'll be undertaking. When we did undertake our 23-24 audit, we did undertake a number of procedures to as part of a build back of assurance in terms of the closing position, and we reported that in our audit results report that was presented at the February committee. On your page 47, pages 47 and 48 of the pack, page 7 and page 8 of the report, we outline the areas of risk focus or significant risk that we've identified to date from our planning procedures, and highlight where there have been a change in the previous year, and provide some context in terms of those risks. I won't talk through each of them in turn, but I'll just highlight that in respect of investment property, we've decreased the risk focus from a significant risk to an inherent risk, and although it is a significant balance within the accounts and on your balance sheet, based on the work which we undertook last year, there weren't any significant issues arising, hence the downgrading of that risk in terms of our overall assessment. And across the page, you'll note that we've got IFRS 16 as a new risk, and that's because IFRS 16 is now applicable for local authority accounting for accounting periods beginning the 1st of April 2024. What IFRS 16 relates to the accounting for lease arrangements, and predominantly as a result of the changes in the standards, there'll be more leases will be coming on balance sheet rather than being off balance sheet. Is a simple explanation of the key changes in relation to that accounting standard. Moving on on section 2 of the report, we provide further details on the risks that have been identified, the procedures that we're planning to undertake in response to those risks. Within section 3 of the report, we provide an outline of our responsibilities in respect of the value for money work that we do. So we have a responsibility to report to the council if there are any significant weaknesses in arrangements against the criteria which are identified by the NAO in the Code of Audit Practice. So those 3 criteria are financial sustainability, governance, how the council makes informed decisions and properly manages risks, and then the third one being improving economy, efficiency and effectiveness, and that's about how the council uses information about costs and performance to improve the way it manages and delivers services. Our responsibilities are to look at the arrangements that the council has in place, not necessarily looking at outcomes as part of the planning processes that we've undertaken. We haven't identified any significant risks of weaknesses in arrangements that we need to bring to your attention, or which would require us to undertake additional work in response to those risks. Also, just like to highlight within section 4 of the report, we outline there our materiality levels that we'll be using in undertaking our work. So overall, we're working to an overall materiality level of 1.3 million. We set our performance materiality at 75% of that 1.3 million, and the performance materiality really is the level which drives our testing strategy, and we state there within the report that we'll be reporting any differences over 0.67 million to the committee. We do request that the audit committee confirms its understanding of the materiality levels and reporting thresholds that we'll be using as part of our audit. The next areas just want to then draw to your attention is on section 7, the timeline. So the team are currently in undertaking the audit at the moment. So we've completed our planning and interim procedures, and we're now starting on the year-end accounts, following the council having published their accounts by the end of June. And in section 8, we do confirm our independence in relation to the work that we're going to be undertaking. Happy to take any questions that members might have on the audit plan before moving on to our annual auditor's report.
Okay, any questions for Hassan on the proposed audit approach for the current year? You mentioned materiality, and you're asking us to confirm we understand the criteria you're using. And they're very similar to last year's, aren't they, in terms of the materialities?
Yes, a similar basis to calculation from
Yeah.
the previous year. There has been a change in our percentages that we're using to calculate our materiality levels.
Yeah. So, with the key performance materiality is 1 million, but you're going to pick up differences that are 2/3 of a million or more and report those. And the overall planning materiality is 1.3 million. So could you just explain why, what's the performance material, why is that different from the overall planning materiality?
So the overall materiality of 1.3 million, so if we identified an error in excess of 1.3 million and the council didn't correct for that error, then that would be a material amount which would lead us to qualify our opinion on the accounts. Right.
But if there was a £1 million error,
then that's below our overall materiality level. So it's not, it wouldn't deem to be material to the accounts. We'd still be requesting that the council would make an amendment, and usually when we do identify differences, then the council do as a record of adjusting for those differences. So, but it wouldn't necessarily lead to a qualification on the basis of materiality.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions on the audit plan? Okay, so we move to a vote approving the audit plan as on page 39 of your agenda papers. Okay, thank you. That's unanimously approved. So if you'd like to take us now to the 2023-24, I'm going to invite Rachel to introduce that topic as well.
Thank you. Yes, this report just updates the auditor's annual report, which makes up part of the statements that were approved at committee 18th of February 2025. This was just due to some wording regarding the backstop needing to be agreed and updated. So it doesn't change anything. It is just part of the process for Sun. I don't know whether you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, so as Rachel said on the at the 18th of February audit committee meeting, we presented our audit results report, and we have a responsibility before issuing our opinion. We report to the committee, so we do that via the audit results report under the Code of Audit Practice. Once the work has been completed and we issue our opinion, we also have a responsibility to prepare the auditor's annual report. So the auditor's annual report, in respect to the financial statements, does really just say, so the audited results report says we will, and this report now says we did issue the disclaimer opinion. One of the key differences between this report and the report that was presented in February is within the appendices you'll see our VFM commentary. So that is it summarises the work which we undertook in relation to our VFM responsibilities. It highlights the arrangements that we identified that the council has in place for each of the criteria and the sub-criteria which are specified by the code. As I said, overall, we didn't identify any significant weaknesses in arrangements which we needed to report to, which would have been a reporting issue for us. So it's a good position, and the arrangements there are sound from our perspective. But again, happy to take any questions which members may have.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is technically you have to report after the fact back to us if there's anything that you've subsequently identified that you should have picked up, but it's not, you haven't identified anything that we need to be concerned about.
Yeah, so before we issue our opinion, we've got a responsibility to report to you issues, yes, which are identified during the audit for the committee to consider before it approves the accounts. Having then issued our opinion, we've got a responsibility then to report to the committee that we did complete our audit, and this is what the results of our audit are. But also, in addition, this report also includes the detailed commentary in relation to our value for money work that we undertook.
Yes, and what you're saying there is that the council had proper arrangements in place throughout last year to manage value for money.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? Okay, so we can move to a vote then on the recommendation that the audit committee accepts the auditor's annual report. And that's approved unanimously. Okay, thank you very much for those two items. If you wish to leave now, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, you can. remain for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Okay, so we now move to item 11, which is the Audit Committee work programme for the current year. And I invite Rachel to introduce that topic.
Thank you very much. So this is reflective of the normal work programme that comes to Audit Committee every year, with the proposed Treasury training in December or January. Again, a date to be confirmed. It's probably also worth just noting that we have planned for the statement of accounts to come to the November Audit Committee for approval for 24-25. The backstop arrangement remains in place for the 27th of February, so if we needed to, we may well have to set up a separate committee meeting for that in order to meet our requirements. But at the moment, we are on target and on plan for meeting November.
And we're planning to do training online if we can.
That's correct, yes.
So hopefully everybody can attend. I think it's key that, you know, as far as possible, all members of the Audit Committee attend the training sessions. So we'll try and make sure that they're arranged on a date that everybody can make and do it online to make it as accessible as possible.
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions on the Audit Committee work programme? You've got it set out on page 126. And as Rachel says, there may be need for an additional meeting in the early part of 2026 to make sure we covered all of the aspects that are required. Okay, let's move that to vote then. You can vote on the touch screen. Okay, that's unanimously approved. Okay, item 12, there aren't any questions pursuant to House procedure, and so I'll draw the meeting to a close. Thank you. Thank you.